Now, agriculture is always a sector of dispute, disparity, and it's always considered to be the most controversial sector in the Indian economy. Agriculture sector in India holds the record for the second largest agricultural land world generating employment factor. In October 2021, the Union Minister of Home Affairs and Cooperation has also launched a Dairy Sahakar scheme in Anand, Gujarat. Good morning and welcome to this session 3, chapter 2, unit 1, first semester B.Ca, pre-reforms of Indian economy, where we're going to speak about the agricultural marketing in India. Now, agriculture is always a sector of dispute, disparity, and it's always considered to be the most controversial sector in the Indian economy. Though we call agriculture as the backbone of Indian economy, but somewhere down the lane, we have forgotten this sector. We have not tried to understand the sector as what we did for the services or for the manufacturing. Now, coming back, India is one of the major players in the agriculture sector worldwide, and its primary source of livelihood has been agriculture. No doubts about it. Why? Because this is the oldest profession in the world, and agriculture is something that is very close to the hearts of each and every Indian. So we have been thinking about agriculture, we have been working with that sector, we have tried to grow with that sector for ages known. But this factor that agriculture is to be considered as a primary sector, a revenue contributor to the Indian economy, has always been under question. So now when we look here, though we have the world's largest cattle herd, the largest area planted, all on the superlative degrees as I am speaking, but still the question that comes back, why has not the sector shown the performance that it needs to? So this is where we are going to look in terms of the agricultural marketing in India. Moving further, being the second largest producer of fruit, vegetables, tea, farmed fish, or we're going to talk about cotton, sugarcane, wheat, rice, and other factors, agriculture sector in India holds the record for the second largest agricultural land world generating employment factor. This concept of employment in India is a never-ending situation, and agriculture is an answer to that big question mark. It has been able to provide job to hundreds and millions of people across the globe, across our country, where we have been able to see that many people have taken this as their primary occupation. But what has been the big factor behind it is that though it is an integral part of the sector, but most of the time we are not able to generate maximum revenue out of it. Now, the second thing is that the consumer spending in India in 2021, the post-pandemic, had again gone back to a record level of spending altogether. And now you see that it has expanded as much as 6.6% in the economy. The Indian food industry is poised for a huge growth, increasing its contribution to the world food trade every year due to the immense potential that we are talking about. So this is something even more interesting. Why? Because you are talking about a base which is about 135 billion population, and you know that the consumption base in India is expanding at a massive rate. So what happens to the economy here is that the consumption keeps on increasing day by day, which means agricultural sector will have a never-ending growth phase. This sector will be in demand forever. So the food production needs to increase, needs to go up leagues ahead in terms to satisfy the people of India. So that's why this sector still holds the key, the integral part of the Indian economy. Following which, the food processing industry, just to throw a statistics at you, accounts for 32% of the economy, country's total food, one of the largest industries in India, and it's ranked 5th in terms of production, consumption, export, and expected growth. So this is definitely growing up at a very, very big phase altogether. Now, when you see this industrial growth segment, this has been one of the key sectors, key reasons I would say why many people, many entrepreneurs want to take up agricultural seriously because they would be able to make very good revenue, and food has always been the topmost priority in any part of the world as we are speaking about. So definitely the potential for growth in this sector is imbibed, but it's up to us that how do we take this sector forward. Followed by, look at the market size. According to the Inc. 42, which is one of the statistical records, Indian agriculture sector is predicted to increase to 24 billion. It's not million, it's 24 billion, what we are going to see by 2025. The Indian food and the grocery market is going to see a massive contribution of 70%. That's world's sixth largest. So anywhere you take this number, India is in the top 10. Whether it's going to be on the economy, it's going to be on the spending, the consumption pattern, or on the agriculture, we are not leaving the top spots in the world. So followed by which, what we are seeing is that there's a huge advancement on these estimates, and we're going to see that the year-on-year growth about 314.51 metric ton on 21-22. Rapid population expansion is also helping this particular sector to grow at a great speed. Followed by which, the market size, the rising income levels in rural and urban areas, which have contributed to an increase in demand for agriculture products across the nation, provide additional support for this, no doubts to that. In accordance to this, the market is being stimulated by the growing adoption and cutting-edge techniques. So now what is happening is that in the food and the agricultural factor, we are also able to see that there has been a huge push of technology coming into picture, which makes this sector even more interesting. Why? Because using the artificial intelligence, the geographical information services and systems factor, this entire thing is going up to the next level. That means the capacity in terms of understanding the e-farming applications, bringing the farmer closer to the land, bringing the farmer closer to the factors of growth, of consistency is also going up. So today, blockchain, AI, all these factors are going to contribute to the agriculture, and we're going to make a dream a reality. So this is how this entire sector is going to see a big boom in the coming years. Followed by the investment. According to the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, what we call it as DPIIT, the Indian food processing industry has cumulatively attracted foreign direct investment about worth 2.55 billion. And that's a big number. I've been throwing all those big numbers for you to understand this very simple factor that agriculture is not going to stay back anymore. Sometime down the year, we were waning about this sector. We were worrying about this sector, that whether agriculture would be able to make the cut. But today, we are looking at agriculture as the forerunner, the front runner of the economy, where we are going to see that this sector is going to attract the maximum FDI in the coming years. Followed by which, in 2022, the government of India is planning to launch the Kisan drones for crop assessment, digitization of land records, spraying of insecticides and nutrients. So all these things are being showing a positive sign for us in terms of the agricultural growth. And nevertheless, what we have seen in the coming years is that this particular sector is booming, and it's trying to produce huge amount of growth aspects for many of the young entrepreneurs. Followed by the investment pattern that we are going to talk about. If you look here, the exports stood at 5,987 million, not to worry at all in the quarter 2022-23, followed by a 14% up growth, and the 21-22, the agriculture and allied products took at 50.21 billion. So this is an improvement, what I say. Why? Because we are talking about a 59.87 here and a 50.21. So you can see that the growth is happening in the agricultural marketing phase. Now, the other thing is that the gross value added has also grown up here, with the allied sector about 18.8% and aggregate growth of 3.9%, and consumer spending will return back as much as 7% altogether. So what we see here is the growth aspect. That's very, very important. So I don't see much of factors coming in. We have seen a lot of growth happening in the last few years. And this has been some of the important things that we have been realizing in terms of the factors. Now, the one thing that I always realize in terms of agricultural growth and aspects is that this has been always possible. Why? Because the sectoral growth in agriculture is now trying to pick up the steam because of a lot of people showing the importance for food, and they've also understood that this is one industry which is sustainable forever, and it has got massive opportunities to grow and as well as take care of the society. Followed by the government initiatives that we are talking about in the agricultural marketing is, from the union budget perspective, we have seen 1.24 lakh crore. That's about a 15.9 billion US dollar that has been allocated for the Department of Agriculture, a massive fund that we are talking about, followed by another 1.1 billion that has been allocated for the agriculture research and education. So put together, we're talking about somewhere close to $17 billion for this great sector. Probably you might feel that you need more contribution compared to that of defense or infrastructure or services, but nevertheless, this money is only a figurative value there that's coming up. In the future years, coming years, you're going to see that agriculture is going to have a better allocation, even more allocation and wider scope in terms of research and development. Followed by the government initiatives, the PM formalization of micro food processing industry, which is coming up to a great amount, with launching up of the financial technical business support for upgradation of micro food processing enterprises with an outlay of about 10,000 crores. So this is a very big amount that we are talking about. So we are also seeing that the government is trying to focus on the smaller sectors, on the micro and the medium sectors, because they feel at some point of time, these sectors can pick up a huge amount of potential in terms of growth, in terms of revenue altogether. So definitely the government is also feeling that we would be able to develop a better revenue, a better growth aspect altogether. Followed by the Indian government is planning to launch the Kisan drones for crop assessment digitization factor, as we have been speaking about. The NABARD will also assist the creation of blended capital fund. So we are now going to talk about even agriculture in terms of financial values, where you're going to get a blended capital. You're also going to see that there's a huge amount of growth that is coming in terms of the various other perspectives. That is, when you see that the startup funds are pulled up, the agriculture fund enterprises are being now giving more importance altogether. Some years back, we need to understand, for a farmer to get a loan from the Indian banks or from the different financial institutions, it was very difficult. Why? Because he used to be questioned so many times. But today, what is happening is that the NABARD, that's the National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development, has understood it very clearly that agriculture needs a lot of startup, needs a lot of push in terms of funds. And what we are trying to do here is that we're coming up with blended capital, which could probably make the system even more interesting, even more, push for the entrepreneurs altogether. So somewhere down the lane, we see that the startups can definitely help to enhance the product value chain altogether. Followed by the initiatives like what we have been talking about is the Krishi Vigyan Kendras, which have been established at the district level across the country, which is very, very important to ensure that newer technologies has improved. That's including the variety of seed crops, new breed, strains of the livestock and fishes that have improved the factors. So this is something which is very, very important for all of us. Why? Because one side, when we are talking only about the plants and the other factor, the livestock is also something that is quite interesting, both from the revenue perspective as well as from the growth perspective. So what we have done here is that we have also started concentrating on the livestock, poultry and other factors, which is going to make the system even more on the growth phase. So this is highly important for all of us in terms of the development. In October 2021, the Union Minister of Home Affairs and Cooperation has also launched a dairy Sahakar scheme in Anand, Gujarat. Nevertheless, we cannot forget the success story of Amul, which was already launched out of the same place, Anand, which is called as the Anand Milk Union Limited. Now, with that success story, the dairy Sahakar is also going to be another feather to the cap, where we are going to enhance our dairy production and go to the next league as far as possible. With this, the government initiatives also on the civil aviation, the Krishi Udan, which is coming in terms of the incentive movement for agri produced by the air transport. So the Krishi Udan 2.0 will be also implemented very soon, where we're going to see that the northeast and the tribal area zones which are not really accessible by road, we could probably benefit them by the airspace in terms of fertilizers, in terms of giving them the manures, or even going on a drone farming methodology altogether. And we have also seen that in the year October 2021, Agriculture and Processed Food Exports Development, what we call it as the APTITUDE, signed a memorandum of understanding with the ICAR, that's the Central Research Institute in Nagpur, for the boosting of exports like citrus and value-added products. So somewhere down the lane, we are seeing that there's going to be a huge growth, huge potential for all of us in terms of the developmental factors. So all these things are really going to add up to us in terms of understanding how the business, how the things are moving forward. Followed by, we are also going to talk about the Union Ministry of Agriculture Farmers Welfare announced that about this 8,20,600 kits of seed kits were going to be distributed among a lot of people, 15 major producing states and about 343 districts that have been identified. So we see that quite a lot of initiatives have come here. And in September 2021, Prime Minister had also launched up a 35 crop varieties for special traits such as climate resilience and that of the higher nutrient content. So we are seeing that somewhere down the lane, now we have picked up agriculture, we have picked up the ideology behind it, and we are slowly moving further with a greater amount of resistance and growth. The other thing is that the PM Kisan Yojana, which has been transferred across almost about 2,000 crores plus to the bank accounts and 10 million beneficiaries as on February 24, 2019. So the budget that was allocated, that was supposed to be seen here on about 65,000 crore, was allocated to the Pradhan Mantri Samman Nidhi, which is used for the benefit of the farmers. Also, the road ahead, that's what we are seeing. What's going to be the future here? What we are going to see is that we are trying to increase, we are trying to double the farm income by 2022. The agriculture sector is expected to grow in a very great height in the next few years, and the investment in agriculture and agriculture related infrastructure are also going to go up with better irrigation facilities, warehousing and cold storage. Furthermore, added to that, we're also going to see that the genetically modified crops are likely to improve the yield of the farmers. So we are going to concentrate on technology-based farming. Plus, we are also going to give importance to the traditional farming also. And we're going to see that we are going to attain our self-sufficiency using the knowledge of our scientists, so that in the long run, India should never face food shortage at all. Now, the other thing that we are seeing is that in the next 5 years, the government will also aim to see about a 9 billion investment through the Matsya Sampada Yojana, which is coming up. And also, we are going to see that the government targeting to raise the fish production by almost 220 lakh tons, which is a very big thing. Total quality management is also coming up in that. We are also going to practice on the hazard analysis and the other things like good hygiene practice, which is going to help us to increase it to 60 billion, the export value altogether. With this, I come to the end of today's session. I hope and believe that through this session, the different facts and figures spoken will help you to understand the importance of agricultural marketing in India. This is just a beginning for us to understand how important agriculture has been going up. In the upcoming sessions, we will be talking about the various policies of agriculture and how agriculture can be taken forward. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.